Another session in our Canvas PD series that has been continuing this year and is broken up into 3 levels. So at the bottom here, for those of you watching on video, we have our bit.ly. So bit.ly/Canvas levels, and that is case sensitive. So make sure that you enter that correctly so that you can get access to our slides. And for those of you here in our live session, that information is in the chat for you to access. My name is Carrie Kunert, and Chris Giles and Nicole Carter are joining me today as we are talking about our Canvas agreements. We as a district came up with Canvas agreements that we'd like all teachers to adhere to. So this is a part of a series where we are walking through those step by step and making sure that teachers have information needed to implement those so we have some consistency as a district. So what our game plan is for today is that we are going to be talking about lesson templates. So that is our topic for this session. We're going to talk all about lesson templates. We are recording this session, obviously, for those people who are watching at a later point in time. And when we are done, we are happy to open it up to questions about lesson templates. So we'll start with questions about that first. And when we've exhausted those, we will stop the recording. And then we are happy to open it up to any other Canvas related questions after that for the duration of our time before we need to get ready for level 2. And we're actually all the way down here on our table of contents. We are on episode 6. So right now we're doing using lesson templates. And then following this at noon, there will be a session on how to use Canvas Studio if you'd like to stay with us, or be sure to find that video as well. So this is hot linked for you, and I'm going to go ahead and jump all the way to slide 17. So we're going to be taking a look at lesson templates. So episode 6, lesson templates. Now the whole idea, why use a template? Efficiency. Right? If you have already created something, and we do this in our classroom all the time, if you've already created something that works, a letter to parents or a generic Google slide that works for your class to share the agenda, what do you do the next day or the next time? Well, oftentimes you grab that same template and you use it again because you already have the clip art done or your Bitmoji in place or whatever, your proper heading of the letter. We do that all the time. Oh yeah. Let me grab that. I already have a permission slip for that field trip. Let me just change it up for this new information. So the same concept in Canvas. So I'm going to show an example right here of our elementary teachers and secondary teachers were all given a template to even just start your Canvas course. You were probably given some information like perhaps a welcome page, right? So this is the elementary version that I'm showing. You were given something and then you went about making your changes to that. So I'm inside of that course right there. And I'm sure you have something similar. The secondary one looks different than that, but I'm just using this as an example. So we also gave a writing unit, and I know those have been done for elementary and middle school as well. And inside of that writing unit, there have been some activities created. So I'm just going to go inside of some activity, right? So you get an activity or you create one that you like. You're happy with the title at the top. You're happy with the clip art that you've put in. This one happens to be built in a table. So the structure is there. I'm happy with the structure. But obviously on tomorrow's writing lesson, I'm going to want a different intention. I'm going to want different steps for that writing assignment. The beautiful part about already having it created is that you can just duplicate it, right? And again, be efficient with your time. But when I duplicate it, it's going to follow all of these little clip art pieces, like step 1, step 2, and the structure is all going to already be there for me, which I don't know about you, but I like to be as efficient as possible with my time. So the way that you're going to do that is you're just going to grab whatever the activity is, the assignment is, over on the right. When you're looking at it in a module view or assignment view, over on the right, you have the ability to duplicate that. So when you duplicate it, it's going to make a copy of it. So right here, it has the same name and it adds beautifully for me the word copy at the end of it. And you'll notice that it starts off that it's currently not published. So just like with anything, I can open up that exact copy and it's ready for me to edit. So I can go right up to the edit menu on the upper right-hand corner there and it already has all of those pieces in place, right? That's the whole idea of having a template. I don't have to redo that. I can simply make it as simple as hopping in to change the objective, to change what the different steps are. But the home button, all the things that I already had set up are already linked, and I don't have to redo all of that. I also don't have to mess with the HTML code and pasting that over if I simply duplicate it. So it's just a much simpler way, once you have something laid out the way you want it, to use it over and over again, that structure. Here's another example of a discussion, right? So we created a discussion for a different class that we were teaching, and we gave all kinds of specific instructions. We made sure that it had this specific, this is how it's going to be framed. And we had portions of the discussion. On Monday, we're going to do this part. This is what's going to happen during the week. These are the sentence stems. Here's what we want you to do on Friday to go back and reflect upon that discussion post. So if I'm going to do this again the next week, really all I need to change is the prompt over here, right? So it's the same exact layout, but I'm going to change the prompt for my students. I'll change the clip art or whatever, but again, so much faster just to simply duplicate it. I could change the sentence stems, and it already has a rubric attached, so I don't have to build that over and over again. So that is done. I'm going to simply do the same thing, and I'm going to duplicate this and create a different one and rename it. So those are the reasons why you'd even want to use a template in the first place, and how to make it more efficient. So Nicole's going to take over from here.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of dive into something that I know that as a team, we're kind of saying there's been some pushback and some, why would we do this? And I think that this is more of a long-term goal. And really, as Chris said earlier today, gets us into thinking a little bit about where we're moving forward, or how we're designing our learning environments virtually. And so this is something, I'm going to go into the exemplar course. And again, you can access it via the bit.ly. And I dropped that into the chat as well. But basically, once you enter into this course, this is something that we're just constantly updating. You will be in this course as a student, so you can interact with any of the content as a student would. And then as we develop things and finalize them, we will upload them to the Commons. And the one I'm going to go into right now is this templates module. Now, I'm going to keep on kind of going through this, updating it, adding a little bit of pieces here. But it is a full module. I'm going to jump into the module view real quick. And you'll see down here in the module that we have this tips to using the template, which is the page I just showed you. But then it starts to break out into other templates that might have you thinking a little bit about creation within Canvas. All of these are pages. And then there's one discussion template, which I'm actually going to update to mimic some of the ones that Carrie just showed for you, because we think that those are really high quality. But what I think is really interesting is within the instruction, not just an activity, but within the instruction, if you're building within a page, we've said kind of over and over again, you really shouldn't be putting anything out there to your students that is just a 12-point font, black text on a white screen. There should be more to it. And this was actually found in the Commons. We've of course updated it a little bit since then. But there was this template module already in the Commons that we were just kind of saying, I wonder if anyone has anything out there already. And sure enough, they did. And of course, we always want to look at things critically when we take them from the Commons and update them to fit our needs. Now, for this instance, what they've done is they've taken a page within Canvas and they've given a weekly overview or a module overview or a unit overview. It depends on how you're setting up your modules and how you're giving your instruction. But the idea here is that you are being very clear and explicit with instruction to the students to move successfully through this unit. So you'll notice that we've got this intro to the unit. We've got the learning standards or learning intentions or learning targets. We can kind of change the wording. I'm now thinking learning targets might be a better title for that section. For the students, how to be successful, maybe even including a rubric into this section. What are the rubrics you're going to meet in this unit or in this week? And then a to-do list or task list. If you had something like this, now I know Chris and I don't always agree on this. I am not a person that likes to send students to the module. I would much rather send them to a page exactly like this that is very clear in my intentions and hyperlinked within this page of where to go and what to do. Just simply because I feel like this is more visually appealing and I can add just so much more information for the students. But moving on, again, as to why would you start thinking about a template? Well, here's an example. What if you are building a page of instruction for students where you want them to watch a video? I think that this has some really good information here where you shouldn't just be plopping a video into a page and calling it good. Just like when we might watch a video in class face to face, we should be utilizing some instruction before we view the video. Students, this is what we're going to be looking for. Or there's certain times where we might pause the video and ask a question to the students to get that kind of call and response. Now, in a virtual environment, you might be using something like Canvas Studio, which we're going to do a session on in an hour. But that call and response or immediate feedback is really important. And plopping a YouTube video onto a page and calling it good, I think is just substandard. We need to push a little bit more. So what are some things that you can do to help focus the viewing for the students? And this just gives you some ideas on how to do that. So there you go. Thinking in terms of, I'm just building a page of instruction for my students. Well, it's not just a page. There are other ways to go about building that page. Likewise, instead of just viewing, maybe we have something that the students need to read or to look at. So it could be an infographic, it could be an article, whatever. So giving them some instructions on how to go about reading the article, what to do, what to look for. We're not just plopping a link, click here, go read this article. We're giving some information and instruction. And so these just kind of keep on going. I'm going to continue to go through these and refine them a little bit more before I upload them to the Commons. Another thing you can do within a page is upload or embed things that students have to explore. You can embed an entire website as well so that students don't even have to leave Canvas to view something that you want them to look at. So again, how are we building the instruction and being very clear and concise? I know my team hates it when I bring up this stupid book again, but this distance learning book does talk quite a bit about teacher clarity. And this is a huge part of us being clear in our instruction. Oh, see, Carrie has it too, but it's hard to see with her background. So teacher clarity is huge. And when we're thinking about building within a virtual environment, we just need to take a few extra steps and think, what would I be doing in a face-to-face environment? And in a face-to-face environment, if you would be standing there in front of the class, giving some instructions and overview before you hit play on a video, well, you need to do the same thing here when we're building in Canvas. Okay, so as we've kind of gone through everything from using lesson templates today, thinking through the layouts and objectives, and then kind of the workflow efficiency. So I'm going to come back to this last bullet here. I think once you take a look at some of those templates that I just showcased, and you maybe build out some of those examples with your own class content, then you revert back to what Carrie showed you at the very beginning, because then you've already built it and you can just duplicate it and sub out the content and make it easier on yourself because you've already spent the time and effort to change the wording to how you might need it or whatever. So it does become easier the more you build. I am constantly going back into other Canvas courses and, oh yeah, I built that already, and kind of copying and pasting or duplicating that product again to make my life easier. So I think that that's kind of where we're at, and we can kind of open it up to Q&A. Did we do okay on time this time, everyone?
No, I knew this was gonna be fast, so I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. But I do want to revisit what you had mentioned earlier, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Do you mind showing the module with your overview page?
Yeah, showing the module view.
Yeah, you know how you had your overview page, the first page in that module?
Yes, this guy.
Yeah, and this is, Nicole and I talk about how we agree and don't agree all the time. And this is something we both totally do agree on. We both love the idea that our students, when they engage in a module, and I'm here to learn, or I'm potentially even possibly going through the module on my own, I still need to be informed about what are my tasks, what am I learning, what are the purpose. And so I think this is a really good example of giving students some of that indication about what they're going to be engaged in when they get to this module. I love this example, Nicole.
Well, I mean, again, I think we're heavily relying still on, our teacher slides and what we might be doing or saying in our, live Zoom sessions. But I think that we need to be clear when we notice or understand that students will be going back and looking at this content later when they're not in a live Zoom, or maybe don't have access
100%.
to you. And, I mean, they obviously can always send us emails and messages or whatever, but at the same time, if we can set them up with stuff like this, that will significantly reduce confusion.
Yeah. And for me personally, like if we were even back in the face-to-face classroom, I still would want my students to know where to turn to find information that I might have shared even today or even yesterday. Like the information or the tasks and the learning may not change. So where do I find that information as a student? So I'm not always, potentially asking my teacher, what's next? Where do I go?
100%. I would still 100% build this way, even when we're back face to face, for sure. Yeah.